My suitcase was modest: an embroidered satin dress, 2 silk slips, light gloves, my ruby necklace, and the crimson lipstick I only wore when I wanted to tempt Fateo or fall prey to it. My mother had insisted I travel to Wiltford, an aristocratic village in the northern English countryside. The family would be gathered for my cousin Cressida's wedding to the wealthy sugar mill heir, Lord Edmund Whitley. I, Elizabeth Harrington, 27, single, with an indomitable spirit and thoughts that, if spoken, would make a nun faint, wasn't there for affection. The truth? I wanted to see up close the perfect groom she'd so bragged about in her letters. The carriage dropped me off at dusk in front of the Wiltford Grand Manor, an old hotel converted from a Victorian manor house. Red carpets, golden walls, chandeliers hanging like jewels from the ceiling, and that hushed silence of a place full of stories no one dares tell. I was greeted by the bride herself, with that embrace of someone wanting to stake their claim. "You came. I was sure you'd shy away," she said, with a high-pitched laugh and the overpowering scent of jasmine. "I wouldn't miss my favorite cousin's wedding for anything," I smiled, lying with the elegance of a ballroom lady. The room assigned to me was, by one of those ironies of fate, just a few doors down from hers, and his. It didn't take long for me to spot him. I saw first his hand strong, holding 2 bottles of wine, and then his shirt open at the top buttons, his wavy hair a little damp, his angular face with a stubble of stubble. He had grey eyes like aged silver and broad shoulders, the kind of man who doesn't need to speak to command a room. He stopped, as if sensing my presence. "You must be Elizabeth, the cousin from London, isn't it?" "It depends. They say good things or bad things." "Both, but neither is true." A tense silence fell, the kind that doesn't ask permission. And then he continued, with the wine and the smell of leather and sweet tobacco in the air. But I stood there, paralyzed, as if the hallway had turned into an abyss. Later, after the introductory dinner filled with fake laughter and lovebirds, I decided to go down to the kitchen for water. The room was too hot. Maybe it was the wine, or him. I wore only my black silk slip, tight as a secret, and walked barefoot across the antique wood floor. I opened the door, and there he was, alone, returning from the smoking room. His shirt was even more open, his glass in his hand, his gaze burning brighter than the cognac. "Thirsty?" he asked, raising his glass. "Water," I replied, but even my voice betrayed the lie. "I have wine in my room, the good kind, if you want to try it." I stood there, speechless, and took a step forward. He held out the glass, but didn't let go. Our fingers met. The crystal clinked between our palms. The tension felt like pure electricity. The next night, I went for another stroll through the halls, claiming I was insomniac, but the truth was him. And he was already waiting for me, leaning against the wall, with 2 glasses and the same damned wine. "You came," he murmured, as if he'd known I would. "Danger fascinates me." We entered. The room was filled with polished wood and heavy curtains. He poured the wine and handed it to me again, touching my hand with studied carelessness. We chatted inconsequentially, as if our skin didn't scream for each other. When it was time to leave, we stopped in front of the door. His shadow covered half of my body. He came closer and, with the crystal of his empty glass, traced my waist to my hip. There was no kiss, but there was more than that. A devouring gaze, a body on fire. I left there almost tripping over my own desires. The next morning, I feigned normalcy, my hair tied in a loose bun. I wore a light linen dress and a practiced smile. The cafe was pure theater, ladies chatting, children laughing, the aroma of tea and freshly baked bread. Cressida engaged me in a monologue about flowers and photographs while I simply smiled and pretended, until he walked in. Light shirt, wet hair, a devastating smile. He walked behind me, and his fingers lightly touched my shoulder. A second. An abyss. Not a word. I fled to the estate's gardens. The greenery helped me breathe. I sat on an iron bench among the rose bushes, trying to shake off the memory of the previous night. But it was impossible. My body was still throbbing. "I found you," he whispered, appearing behind the bench. "I didn't even know you were looking for me," I replied without looking. "I was, since day one." He sat beside me, dangerously close. The kind of closeness that borders on scandal. "Are you okay? You're my cousin's fiancé." "Not yet." He smiled. "Damn, but we've already done more with our eyes than many couples do in years of marriage." My heart pounded in my chest. I stood up, as if that would pull me away from what I was feeling. "I need to help Cressida with her dress. Tonight, I'll be in the same place, waiting." His voice brushed against my neck. My knees buckled inside. I didn't respond, but he knew. And right then, in that moment, I knew too. There was no turning back. If you're as invested in this story as I am, like it, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell, because the next chapter is coming, if you know what I mean. 3 knocks. Soft, almost timid, but inside me, they sounded like thunder. My stomach churned, my skin tingled all over. A shiver ran up my spine to the back of my neck, as if my body already knew or desired what was coming next. I stood still, my feet frozen on the ancient wooden floor, my hands sweaty, my heart hammering inside my chest, and, well, she, my little flower, vibrating like an overstretched harp string. I took a deep breath, approached the door as if approaching the abyss. The handle felt heavier than ever. I turned. I opened it. Slowly. It was him. Of course it was. He was wearing a dark shirt. His hair still damp, falling carelessly over his forehead. The smell, a mixture of soft cologne and something warm, raw, masculine. A scent not found in bottles, only on the skin of certain men who know exactly what they're doing with it. "I thought you wouldn't open," he said, his voice low, thick, almost a sinful whisper. "Me too," I replied, and realized my voice was nothing more than a damp breath. He took a step, just one. "May I come in?" The answer didn't come. Only my chin moved downward, as if my body had a life of its own. He entered, and the room, which had previously seemed spacious, suddenly shrank. The air thickened. My chest rose and fell as if I'd run a marathon in petticoats. He closed the door slowly, as if sealing a pact. He went to the dresser where, earlier, I'd left the forgotten bottle of wine. He poured 2 glasses, and when he handed me one, his fingers touched mine with a lingering that wasn't accidental. This time, I didn't pull away. Trembling inside, I took a sip. His eyes undressed me more than any gesture. Under that gaze, I felt naked, vulnerable, wanted and hunted at the same time. "Are you sure?" he asked, his voice hoarse with anticipation. "Not at all," I replied. He smiled slowly, like someone listening to the music before the orchestra begins. The glass rested on the wood. His hand came to my arm, then rose to the curve of my shoulder and slid down to my neck. His fingers touched my skin with the precision of someone deciphering maps, secret maps, maps of pleasure. I should have run away. I told myself so. I even whispered, I should leave. But he interrupted my thoughts with a kiss. On my neck. Light, burning. My skin tingled all the way to my toes. My body leaned in, as if it no longer belonged to me. As if I were in his possession now. His hands slid down my waist and settled on my hips, where they gripped firmly. I was pulled close. Our chests met, and even with the fabric between us, I felt everything. Everything. "You're trembling all over," he murmured, his lips brushing my cheek. "You haven't even started yet," I replied, with a smile that betrayed my fire. The kiss that followed was a confession, a dive of no return. It tasted of wine and transgression. His hands roamed my back as if they already knew the way, and our bodies pressed together in a perfect fit. My hardened breasts sought the warmth of his chest, which pressed in response. His hands moved down, firmly. They cupped my ass as if they were made for it. And it was with that touch that I felt his tool, large, rigid, pulsing against my belly. My little flower reacted immediately, vibrating, begging. My nightgown rose on its own, as if with a will of its own. His fingers explored my thighs with a slowness that was both torture and reverence. "You are hidden fire, Elizabeth," he said. "You are uncapped gunpowder." He turned me gently but firmly against the wall. My back touched the cool wood, and his body surrounded me. My neck was bitten. My collarbone was licked with precision. I arched, my fingers digging into his shoulders, as if the world were falling apart there. His hand touched above my panties. He stopped and whispered in my ear, "You're wet." "Since yesterday," I confessed, trembling. He pulled the lace slowly, undressing me like someone unwrapping a rare gift. His fingers came in circular motions, soft and firm. Each touch was a shock. My knees were weak, but he held me, possessing every inch of me. His other arm was firm around my waist, maintaining control. My eyes closed, my entire body screamed. Just as I was on the brink of the abyss, he stopped. He looked into my eyes. "I want to see all of you." He lifted me with strength and delicacy. He laid me on the bed as if I were porcelain and took off his shirt. His chest was strong, without exaggeration, just enough to make me bite my lip. He removed my nightgown with the reverence of a devotee. His pants came down, and finally, I saw the extent of his desire. "Take a deep breath," he said. But I didn't breathe. I just trembled. He enveloped me with his entire body. He took me slowly. A moan escaped, restrained, then deeper, harder. Each thrust was an earthquake. He kissed me hungrily, and I responded with my body. The little flower exploded. Once, twice. I didn't even count anymore. I just felt it. Hours later, my head rested on his chest. Heart racing, skin pressed against my chest. He stroked my hair. "This shouldn't have happened," I murmured, still panting. "But it happened," he replied, "and it will happen again." The sun hadn't yet risen when I woke. He was sleeping on his side, serene, as if he hadn't broken every law of decency just hours before. I dressed carefully, picking up my underwear from the floor like someone covering up a crime scene. I went to the bathroom and washed my face. The reflection in the mirror showed a transformed Elizabeth. Her mouth was swollen, her eyes were red, but there was something else, something burning. A desire that tasted of guilt. Before leaving, I looked one last time. He was still asleep. I closed the door slowly, but before the handle locked, I heard, "This isn't over." I turned slowly. He was standing, pants on his body, bare chest, wild look in his eyes. "You should be asleep," I whispered. "You should still be here," he replied. I remained silent, but he knew. If you're getting chills along with me on this story, comment below. Tell me what you thought and where you're watching from. It's a pleasure to hear from you. And hold on tight, because in the next chapter, things will heat up even more. He walked toward me, unhurriedly, undisguised, his hand extended, just like the first time that night it all began. The same hand that made my skin shiver, that ran over my body as if reading a forbidden book. "Elizabeth, this will destroy us, just as it's destroying me inside." I gently pulled my hand away, but firmly. "Sir Alaric," In a few hours you will be my cousin's husband. This... I caught my throat. This shouldn't have happened. He didn't respond. He just took a deep breath. His broad chest rose and fell beneath his elegant linen waistcoat. Then pretend, he said, his eyes fixed on mine. Pretend nothing happened. I nodded, my eyes downcast. I turned and left that room that still carried his scent, his touch, the muffled whispers of the night before. In the tea room, where the guests ate breakfast before the ceremony, everything felt like poorly rehearsed theater. Every time someone said, "Lady Odette," my cousin, my jaw tightened. With each compliment to the exemplary groom, my stomach turned inside out. Odette was radiant. She wore a floral pastel dress that matched the spring weather and everything I wasn't. She pulled me into photos, hugged me, whispered, "You're like a sister to me." And I smiled. The kind of smile only an award-winning actress could manage without letting her heart shine through her eyes. He arrived soon after. White shirt, cream tie, hair styled with a subtle shine. He looked at me only 1 second, maybe less, but it was enough. His eyes said, "Yesterday was true." Mine replied, "Today needs to be a lie." The day dragged by like a heavy dress down a narrow hallway. I was assigned to help with floral arrangements, review guest lists, adjust chair bows, and in every corner of the Westmere estate I saw ghosts. The two of us. There. Everywhere. The staircase in the ballroom where he leaned against me, smiling. The balcony where we almost kissed. The wall where he pinned me with his hip, and I lost my mind. The bed where I lost more than that. That afternoon, while supervising the musicians in the garden, he passed me on the phone. His fingers brushed my arm for a second. A light touch, but enough to make my body remember everything. I shivered all over, and I realized I needed to escape. I went up to my room and threw myself on the bed, fully clothed. I stared at the ceiling. I tried to remember who I was before this weekend. Elizabeth, the bold, sarcastic cousin who just wanted to get up close and personal with her ideal groom. And now, I knew too much. I felt too much. I wanted too much. There was a knock on the door. It was her, Lady Odette. She was dressed in pearly white, her hair tied in a braided bun, her skin glowing with emotion. "I'm so nervous," she said, laughing, her eyes shining. "Normal," I replied, forcing a smile. "Have you seen Alaric today?" Alaric. The man who undressed me with his eyes? The man who slept with me hours before sealing his fate with my cousin? "I saw," I said. "He seems so calm. That's what I've always admired about him, that serenity. It makes me feel safe." I bit my lip until it almost bled. "You're a lucky woman, Odette." She hugged me, a hug full of gratitude. And inside, it crushed me. The ceremony began promptly at 5. In the estate's garden, chairs covered in white linen, arches of wildflowers, a narrow aisle lined with tall candles. The sky was golden, as if even he was trying to make everything more beautiful. Or more cruel. I sat in the second row, my heart in my throat, my hands cold. Alaric entered first, to the sound of soft strings. Dark suit, light tie, serious eyes. For an instant, our gazes met, a second, a slap. And then, she entered. Odette looked like a Roman goddess, radiant, oblivious to the abyss forming beneath her feet. Alaric held her hand firmly, and when the judge asked, "Sir Alaric, do you take Lady Odette to be your wife?" He looked at me, straight, and said, "Yes." My little flower cried, and my breath vanished. Then came the applause, the toasts, the photos. Odette glowed. And the man who the night before made my body forget morals was now officially part of my family. The party began. Champagne, music, smiles. But I was just a shadow hovering between the tables, a glass in my hand and a weight on my chest. Until he appeared. He came from behind, without touching. But he spoke softly, warmly, so close to the back of my neck that my skin reacted before my mind. "Are you leaving today?" I closed my eyes. "I am." "Tell me where and when we'll see each other." I turned, slowly. "Do you realize what you're saying?" "I do, but I can't help it. Odette is my cousin, and you married her 2 hours ago. And yet, here I am." He held out his hand, not to touch, but as a silent invitation. And I wanted to. Oh my God, how I wanted to. But I took a deep breath. I swallowed my tears. I shook my head. We've done enough, and still, it will never be enough. The music grew louder. The room spun, and there we were, in a noisy silence, between sins and desires. "You'll think about this forever, Elizabeth. If you continue, you'll make me come back." He smiled, sadly. "Tell me you felt all of this too. Do you really need to hear it?" "I do. I felt it. Until now. And maybe for a long time to come." He sighed. "Then why don't you continue?" "Because some things are only valuable while they're a secret. And us? We were a locked room and a wide open desire." He didn't insist. He just said, "If you ever want to, come find me." I didn't look back. I threw everything into my suitcase, tied up my hair, and removed my makeup. I wiped away every trace of him like someone covering up a fire. I returned home with a broken heart. During the trip, every couple I saw, a story, a mistake, a memory. Maybe everyone has a story like that, or maybe not. Someone who comes at the wrong time, who will never be yours but leaves a mark as if they had been. My heart wept. I opened my diary. The first image was a photo of their wedding, smiling, toasting. Even though I don't want this end, I wish for a new beginning, God bless. I closed the diary. I rested my head on the pillow. And the last thing I felt was my heartbeat. Just remembering him saying, "This isn't over. Maybe it never will. And if you've made it this far with me, tell me in the comments. Do you also have a secret kept like this? One that never truly ended? Let me know where you're watching from. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. See you in the next video.